Good morning. Thank you for being here. I have a few questions, if I may. One of which is, I recently just finished a master's degree, and actually in international affairs and relations. And I wrote my master's thesis on conscious creation as essentially a new paradigm for a backbone for the new paradigm in international leadership. And in doing so, I had to obviously research a lot of different realms within that, and as well as communicate with a lot of different people who are in international leadership positions, people dealing with negotiations, dealing with nuclear proliferation with countries, etc. And in defending that thesis, some questions came up that I was unable to answer, and I think probably the answers to the question I'm going to ask you've probably already given the answer in your introduction, which was fantastic, but yet I couldn't quite gain the clarity of that and relate it to the question. So one of the questions that came up to me was, okay, how do you explain something like the Middle Passage and slavery in the 1500s? Did those tribes in Africa, for example, mentally create that situation for them to become slaves? Or genocide in Rwanda? Did the Tutsis create that for them? Or the Holocaust, did that happen? So how do you explain a situation like that if you all have the power to create your own reality and manifest what you want? Is that really what they wanted to manifest? And I've done a lot of research and tried to find, I've looked on YouTube and seeing some of the excerpts, and I haven't quite been able to find the exact answer to those questions. So I was hoping you could sort of elucidate.
Well, it's interesting how those are the big questions that always come up. When you present a concept to someone and they're not anywhere in the vibrational vicinity, they almost always go to the extreme and the absurd in order to make their point, because they cannot do otherwise.
Right.
And then trying to defend your position just causes both parties to dig in, and the whole thing just sort of breaks down and ultimately feels more ridiculous to both parties who are trying to defend it. Because the fact of the matter is, they cannot explain to you how that came about. In other words, no one has because if they thought they could explain how it came about, somebody by now would have put something in place to keep it from coming about again and again and again
right.
and again and again and again. So at least when you begin to explain that people can begin observing situations and can become so much a vibrational match to what they're observing that then it begins to become more and more of their reality, at least there is something that they can begin to measure, because there is no evidence to the contrary of law of attraction and its effect upon situations. Now, we could stand in your shoes and attempt to argue that point for you or with you, and we're going to do a little bit of that here. But you're going to see how it will break down for them right away, because there are all kinds of issues that would need to be cleaned up in order to make them willing to accept it. But for example, let's take the issue of slavery. So, and it's interesting some of the things that you bring up, that the parallel between what's going on in one part of the world now and slavery. So, do you think it would be accurate to say that many of the descendants of some of those that were brought here in slavery are now living in a much better environment than they would be if they had stayed there?
I think it would be presumptuous for me to even answer that question.
But wait. So what country were you talking about where awful things are happening, genocide?
Okay, Rwanda, for example.
All right. So do you think that there are any people who are living in other parts of the world who are descendants that came from there that are living better lives now than if they'd stayed there and were part of that now?
Perhaps you can make a case for that.
Do you think anybody's even thinking about that? Do you think anybody is feeling appreciation for the fact that someone, even though they can't, in other words, they were looking for a different life, and while we are certainly not supporting or happy about anyone that is held in any sort of bondage or slavery, they were reaching for something. They did come to another part of the world, and the people that were born after them and after them and after them and after them and after them are living increasingly better lives. Yes or no?
Depends how you define that, to be honest with you. Because, and some people might grasp, but I've spoken with people, and it depends on, I mean, if you're going to use slavery as an example in the Middle Passage, depends on which area of the world
of course it does.
that you're going to talk about.
Of course it doesn't. But you see what happens, the reason that it's hard for people to find any satisfaction in what you're attempting to explain to them is that because of the shortness of the view that they're living in any one life experience, they can't see the long range improvement of life experience. And it's really hard to believe that whole cultures of people could have things in their vortex that would call them to it, that would be part of an overall improvement of humanity. In other words, people don't really get that. It's like, why would anyone put themselves through something that they don't want? Well, there are desires that you're born with that are very powerful, that cause you to be willing to have an experience in order to explain something. Okay. You see, it takes longer view, and longer view means it takes aligning with the source within you who has longer view. And when you align with the source within you who has longer view, then these things begin to make sense to you, which you can't make sense out of from shorter view. It is the confounding piece that all teachers feel as they are attempting to help someone come to know what they know, is that you have to sort of be in the vibrational vicinity before you can know what they know. And if you're not in the vibrational vicinity of it, then there's no way of proving it to them either.
Okay.
And that's why these things happen gradually. That's why consciousness unfolds slowly. That's why there are always those insightful masters that find the peace and begin to experience the benefit of it, while the masses are much slower to come along. But what happens is, because this is the way it usually happens, it doesn't have to be, and you all in this room can certainly be an exception. But what happens is, someone comes to insight like you did, like doing the research that you do and forming the questions that you do and finding some of the answers that you find and coming into alignment with who you are and catching these glimpses of knowing where you really know. So what happens is, the vortex is just full of improved life experience for humanity, because humanity is living it and asking for it, and the vortex is full of it, and inner being is knowing it, and then a few make their way in and see the beauty of it and feel the power of it and feel the clarity of it and receive the benefit of it. And then, but most do not, because most are holding to the reality of what is, instead of understanding the reality of the vibration and the vortex. But then the next generation that is born from the vortex.
Right.
And so the next generation that is born are not clinging to those thoughts. And so they have to be dragged to school, and they have to be forced to focus on the Holocaust, and they have to be forced to study the history. They have to be retrained back in. They didn't live it. Their parents didn't live it. Their grandparents didn't live it. In other words, it's way time that it could be let go of. There are always those that are holding on to it. And so new generations come, and new generations come, and new generations come, until in time there is a letting go of the unwanted. In time.
Okay.
But even though it's the letting go of that old-fashioned unwanted that doesn't mean anything to me, they find new unwanteds to fixate and focus on, until little by little, there become those like you or those like Esther, the room full of people here, who are coming to know that you're feeling things that you can't necessarily find words for, that you know things that you're not necessarily witnessing in terms of manifestation. And then as you hear us speak of your ability to fixate on them until you feel utter resonance in it, then it shifts. Will there be a time when all of them will get it? At the same time, no, because there will never be a time that there won't be contrast, and there will never be a time that there isn't the beginning point of a new journey. But for us to say to you that some of that trauma and tragedy that they are wanting to condemn, if you could make peace with it and acknowledge that it was the beginning of a journey that was better, then the improvement could be yours today. But the determination to condemn it as wrongdoing on whoever part you want to call point the condemnation toward, holds you in the place of not receiving the benefit that they all cared so much about, that they were willing to live it in order to create it. Does that follow at all?
Yeah,
These are
definitely,
big thoughts.
definitely.
These are big thoughts. They are powerful thoughts, and they are thoughts that only those in the vicinity of the vortex are willing to reach for until they own them.
Okay. So in terms of using this metaphor and this analogy of global issues that are transpiring, and you've mentioned about not focusing obviously on what is in that moment. You can focus obviously on what you want to be, but in terms of how do you solve the problems of what is when you're in that? I mean,
best question we've ever heard. You cannot solve the problem of what is when you're in it, because you hold yourself in the vibrational frequency of it, and it keeps coming at you because law of attraction says it must be. So you have to find a way of separating your consciousness from the bondage of what is, and that's why we're talking about what is in the vortex.
Okay. So how do you do that?
Well, that's what we talk about all day, every day. Let's take a segment of refreshment, and we'll return with you.
Okay. Yes, I have one more question. So the last time I was here, the last time you were here, I think in April, I was fortunate enough to sit in this seat. And I had, my wife and I, we had a baby girl that was coming. And you gave us some amazing, wonderful advice that we constantly revisited and focused on. And so now she's here, and she's 3 months old, and she's beautiful. The biggest blessing in the world. And I just wanted to know if I could get some other advice to continue on with this, because there's a million books out there, and the 6 minutes that you spoke to me is by far the best advice I've ever received.
We have a handful of things that we would encourage. And let us give you a little basis of it. It will make it easier for you to accept it.
Okay.
And it really fits in with what we were talking about before segment of refreshment with you. If you will remember that even before this baby came into this physical experience, that you were putting things into your vortex about her. Uh-huh. And even before she came into this body, doing the same thing. So there are intentions that are there that are certain and sure and wonderful. So if you remind yourself that this vortex is valid and real, and that she's smarter than you.
She is.
Because
she seriously is.
Because she was born from all of that.
Right.
And has none of all this other stuff to overcome.
Right.
Like the conversation that we've just been having.
Definitely.
With you. So with that basis laid, we would encourage you to do these things. And as you pull them off, we will anoint you as most successful parent of this world. Follow her lead, which means trust like she trusts, and expect good things like she expects good things, and know her well-being like she knows her well-being, and just applaud every step along the way and every stage along the way at her wisdom and her knowledge. And she can be one who will never find deviation from the source within her. She can be one that you ask about, well, then what's the other choice? What's the alternative? What's the alternative to it being so bad that you have to find a good feeling place just to survive? What's the alternative? It being so good, always so good, knowing your power, knowing your clarity. She can be one who sifts through contrast and takes it for what it is, because her parents know what it is. It's the contrast that is there for you to make choices. It's not there to defeat you. It's not there to challenge you. It's not there to wear you down. It's not there to make you stronger. It's there for you to see. It's for you to revel in. It's for you to make peace with. It's for you to make choices. So what are the choices that you're making? And allow her to make the choices and follow her lead. In other words, when she makes a choice, back her up in it, whether you think it was a right choice or a wrong choice. Back her up in it with the knowledge that in her ability to make choices and then experience the consequence of the choice, her true knowledge will come, you see.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.